Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Robin, this is Digital Wilds, and welcome back to Darkest of Days, the end of Darkest of Days, because in this episode we're going to be ploughing through the last few missions and seeing what this game's ending has in store for us. This is unfortunately the second time I've recorded this episode, so I already know what happens, but I'll try and feign surprise for you. Let's jump in and see where we're up to. So as you'll remember, last time we were asked to jump into some of the previous periods in order to fix some of the problems we'd created in our previous missions. So in this episode we'll be taking the rather novel approach of taking the side of the Germans in World War I and the Confederates in the Civil War for a little bit of historical balance. So let's jump in and we'll check out what's happening in the First World War.
We need to get a move on. No time to waste here.
So here we are back at Tannenberg, this time wearing German field grey, and our first job is to protect the bridge from as many advancing Russians as we can. We can take them down with this machine gun, and obviously our job is going to be partly to avoid killing the blue guys, though we might get lucky if we can hit one of them with a stray machine gun bullet only once and knock him down rather than outright killing him. But we're so far in the game at this point that any bonus points are not particularly worth having, so it's better to just avoid killing them altogether and therefore avoid summoning the future guys who might actually kill me. The auto-aim on this is getting very silly, if you can see when they're falling over. Right, there we go. Bridge is gone. So now it's our time to get the hell out of here. Right, so our main job now is to help out the Germans retake this camp, which shouldn't be too difficult. We're just going to switch over to the rifle so we can get some relatively accurate fire on the enemy. Usually I'd feel a little bit bad about playing as the Germans in a World War game, but, you know, this is early First World War, so they haven't committed that many atrocities yet, and it's much better than the Second World War, so I'll take it for now. Quick handful of Pokeballs to take down some of the blue guys, and we'll go in hard with the rifle. I fully upgraded the accuracy on this thing, so taking down these guys at distance shouldn't be too difficult. Oops, managed to take down a blue guy. If I do that again, I'm going to summon the opposition here. And, well, that wouldn't be the worst thing, because I could nick one of their weapons. It might result in my death, so that's something I'm keen to avoid. Okay, so it looks like it's just this cluster over here that needs taking down, which we should be able to do without too much difficulty. Club that guy so he doesn't die. And just a couple of them left over there. Pokeballs out for those two, and bullets for the unlucky ones. So we push on further back, and now we're hunting down a rail yard where we've got to defeat the Russians who are taking over the train depot. Well, the pistol was proving quite useful there, but I'm now out of ammo, so over to the rifle, and avoid killing that guy. Now it's just him, and we should be clear. So down the tracks, which admittedly do make the rail yard quite easy to find. Just follow the great steel objective marker on the floor here. Those are Germans, so I don't want to open fire on them just yet. Uh-oh. Well, since it's the First World War, you'd kind of assume it would be artillery, but Dexter seems to think otherwise. Really want to hunt down some pistol ammo before I start taking out the opposition guys, but oh well, I'll do what I can. Thanks, France. He got taken out by a German there. Now that I've got one of their future weapons, this should become markedly easier. Still need to be a bit careful, because they are quite powerful in their own right. There we go. Only bothered sending about 4 of them after us. If they'd sent more, they probably could have killed us, but we've got to head over and sort out some artillery. There it is. So we've got to get up to the top of this hill, take out any remaining Russians, and deal with any opposition types on the way as well. Glad they're establishing Dexter's personality finally as a guy who swears creatively. It's not been made quite clear at this point why exactly they're doing that. Why would they want to mess up the time stream to throw the First World War for the Russians? Maybe they're just really anti-communist. Well, as we see over there, there's the farmyard where we were doing battle in a couple of missions ago. It's not brilliantly animated, I'll be honest, but those are the Russians holding out against the Germans, so what we're going to have to do is deal with them at long range through this lovely cannon. The icon for this, by the way, is for the shoulder-mounted rocket thing rather than the artillery. I'm not sure whether they just didn't have an icon created for an artillery gun. Wouldn't surprise me, because this is quite a lazy game. The aiming on this is absolutely bollocks, by the way. You will have to aim really far down to hit anything remotely close, as I'll demonstrate. There we go. So you have to basically aim at the floor to hit that farmhouse. Alright, so next it's the machine guns. Honestly, I would question whether at this point in the war anywhere on the Russian front had this many machine guns, because the Russians really didn't have very many. A lot of them didn't even have proper rifles or shoes. But whatever, I suppose they have to give the game a sense of balance somehow. Alright, that's 2 down. See if we can get the third one out. Well, that looked like it should have blown them up, but apparently didn't, so I'll give it another go. There we are. And with one more shot on target, all the machine guns are down. So we've got to hit that command post at the back there, and then we'll be leading the charge. Come on, Dexter, let's go kill those Germans.
Now, if my calculations are right, we should be in the small barn ready to portal out. Quick, hit the building.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was ahead of schedule, and I was trying to hit the small barn before I head down there and lead the assault. That's my bad. I would have thought that was very much close enough to destroy the small barn. There it goes. Okay, So another battle with the strangely robotic voiced agents, who are not particularly good at combat, I'll be honest, because they keep spawning at very, very short range so that I can mow them down. Whereas if they just, you know, if they're from the future, they've surely got the same sort of super sniper rifle as I've got that could have just taken me out from a couple of miles away without me thinking about it.
Some maniac's gotta get up and cross that trench line, and the rest of them will follow.
Do you think I'm going to be that maniac, Dexter? Because that's the impression I'm getting. Kommen Sie her, Soldaten. Lanzus. Attacken die Russ. I don't speak German. Right, so we got them all huddled behind this chunk of earth that is handily protecting them from bullets, but someone's going to be brave and go up the top, so as Revolver Held once sang, Lancers gain, Lancers gain, Lancers gain. Just keep their heads down with some automatic fire and hide down here so I can reload. If I get up behind this little barricade, I can start taking out the defensive lines of the Russians. If I go around the flanks and take out the machine guns, that should make things easier for my allies. Plus, a flimsy sheet of plywood will protect me from most of the enemies here. So, duly reloaded. Let's go take out this little machine gun nest. And if we head around the back... Oi, you, stay down. Nice of you to show up, lads. If you mind helping out, that would be great. Right, here we are. So, into the portal, and we're out of here. So, long story short, the First World War's returned to normal now, so that's it for now. I upgraded my clip size for pistols in the upgrade screen, and we're going to head into the Civil War mission and see what happens next. Right, so after a brief game crash, we're going to head back and do the final Civil War mission. Same situation as before, we've messed up the time stream, so now we have to go level things out on the other side. This time we'll be fighting alongside the Confederacy. Unfortunately, there's also a Union officer who's managed to get himself a futuristic weapon, so we'll have to deal with him. So here we are, we're in the midst of the Union attack that we spurred on, and it looks like that they are getting the upper hand, which, you know, historically is accurate for the Civil War, but perhaps not at this stage. 1862 was a bit early for the main destruction of the Confederacy to commence. Right, so we've got a big chunk of cavalry coming through. We're going to need to take those guys down, including trying to club a horse to death, which I guess would probably work if I was close enough. I find the Civil War missions just by far the least fun of the pathways through this game, because they are just so difficult to see, get shot from all sorts of angles, the weapons aren't particularly powerful, so dealing with the enemies becomes quite difficult. It's just not a great experience for the player. Right, so we push through, and unfortunately, we run into a very special enemy.
Reckoning is upon us, brought nigh by the evils and the sins of the Confederacy. I am his holy weapon, sent to render his divine judgment. All that have the stain of rebel sin shall burn this day.
See, the implication there is that that guy is supposed to be sort of driven mad by his power by having the future weapon, but what I don't understand is how he's supposed to get ammunition for it, because they're clearly not manufacturing it in 1860s, and the couple of hundred rounds he would have found with it would run out pretty quickly in a Civil War battle. There's thousands of casualties on each side. I guess it's an excuse for the game to do something a bit more interesting with the plot, but, you know, I don't think it really works as a kind of long-term goal. Now, when I played this game through the first time before the great crashing of April 2020, his weapon managed to despawn, so I couldn't go and pick it up, and it was a bit of a problem because you kind of need it in order to get through the next section of the game properly. So we'll see if we got lucky this time. Okay, we did. So fortunately, we can now start mowing down the Union soldiers with this kind of auto-aiming assault rifle, which, while kind of fun, is just basically ripping off Harry Turtledove's The Guns of the South, which is a book about how the Confederacy gets hold of AK-47s from time-travelling apartheid South Africans. Yeah, I know. Oh no, those are Confederate soldiers, don't want to shoot them. Sorry, trained into my instincts by the previous missions to automatically shoot at the grey uniforms. But yeah, now we've got the automatic rifle, we get to do some fun sweeping away of their battle line, which, you know, just becomes like mowing the lawn eventually. I'm going to run out of ammunition eventually, but Dexter will have me sorted there. You've got to be kind of careful because they do hide behind the rocks and stuff. There are still more around, particularly these sharpshooters up here. If we run around here, we can get a little bit more cover, and if we head up this side of the map, we'll run into Dexter just over here. So unlike most of the other future weapons, using the sights on this actually makes it worse because it disables the auto-aim. And, you know, that's fine if you got enough ammunition to maintain it, but I really don't, so I can't really go into aiming at any sort of accuracy. I just have to kind of spray and hope. So after many, many frustrating deaths at the hands of enemies I couldn't see, we finally meet up with Dexter, and he tells me that as well as leaving some ammunition ahead for me, he's going to take out the cannons that keep randomly blowing me up, so that I don't keep getting killed by them. So we'll push ahead and get some resupply for this thing. Unfortunately, that is quite necessary now, because I've just run out of ammunition. The artillery breaks through their barricade, and now we can push up to this farmhouse where there is ammunition available. Unfortunately, it's now full of Union soldiers, and I don't have my super awesome future weapon anymore, so I've got to kind of rely on the Confederate guys and on my own shooting with the period weapons here. Still, shouldn't prove too difficult. I kind of know where they are. Right, I really shouldn't have died there because I was getting hit through a clipping object, which should have had, you know, he shouldn't have been able to melee through. So after saying this fight was going to be easy, it's turned into a tedious slog, because as usual with the Civil War missions, I cannot see a thing, and I just get killed out of nowhere by enemies that I couldn't detect. Which I guess is partly the experience of Darkest of Days. The combat is variable between ridiculously easy lawn mowing session with the future weapons and tedious slog with all the period weapons, which I get their commitment to, you know, historical accuracy with some elements of this game, but if they're willing to have, like, time-travelling super cops, I just think they could have, you know, maybe sped up the reload on the musket fire a little bit to at least make it equivalent to, like, the bolt actions in the First World War, which at least were, you know, usable. I forget there's a guy back there with a bayonet who's going to club me to death if I give him half a chance. So I'm just going to take out this guy and hopefully sneak past him. Yep, there we go. So we've taken that guy out. These are the last two. And now I can finally get my resupply. Well, I will go and save tombs once my ammunition is a little bit more than 100 rounds. Nice and stocked up to 400 rounds. And now let's push on to what will be our final battlefield of the Civil War. Fling out a bunch of Pokeballs. Oh no, they're Confederate soldiers we're supposed to be saving. Oh, that's fine. From here, taking out the Union guys in this melee shouldn't be too difficult. I don't know how the rifle detects who's an enemy and who isn't, but that's not something I'm about to complain about. Grey-coated buddies here, and our general will tell us to go and get on the cannon.
Get up there!
So the general's brilliant military strategy is we've got to keep the enemy back. Seems reasonable. Right, so onto the cannon, which I doubt I'll be using extensively because, as I've experienced before, these cannons are not particularly good weapons. They're just a kind of nice historical piece, but they don't actually function very effectively for taking out concentrations of enemy troops unless you're very accurate like that. Still, if I just keep blasting away at the bridge, we should take out a lot of them eventually. I think there's some coming up through the riverbed over there, so I'm just going to lay a couple of shots on them, see if we can take any out. There we go, a few down. That guy's an officer, so we want to take him out. Not that there's any functional difference between the officers and the soldiers in this game. Everyone just kind of mills around shooting at each other at 10 feet apart. Right, so now they've got over the bridge, so let's just start spraying them with this, with the super rifle. And maybe hide behind the cannon for a little bit of cover. And they start falling like bowling pins. Well, in theory they do. In practice, turns out a lot of them just disappear off the map as soon as they're hit, and a lot of them are surprisingly bulletproof. Still, making decent level of progress here. Thanks, Tombs. Well, if I do as the man says, and press the fight, we should be able to spray a few of these guys down. Our ammunition running dangerously low, even though I had that resupply recently. And the cavalry goes down in a single lovely burst. They're quite easy to take out with the super rifle because they're such big targets. I'm going to go back on the cannon just for this final concentration because I don't have another way of... Oh. My cannon literally explodes, taking it out as an option for me. Just going to empty my clip into this last concentration of guys, and now we've got to try and fight our way out with Tombs. Don't know if I have a way to resupply the super gun, but just going to blast away with a revolver until my ammo's out. Got a sniper rifle I can use if I have to. And it looks like I now do have to. I think I might have shot one of my own cavalrymen there. Not ideal. Okay, that was the mission success noise, so it looks like we've got out of here. Unfortunately, Dexter is ahead of us, and I have very little ammunition with which to get to him, so I'm just going to skirt around the sides of the battle here and hope they don't notice me. Just over there in that river basin. Right, here he is. And unfortunately, it looks like we've got some futuristic visitors, and very little ammo with which to deal with them. It's very easy to die here, so what I'm probably just going to do is fall back and try and avoid death for as long as it takes me to get out of here. Right, come along, Dexter. We're heading over here. We've got to push through this... the source of all the Union soldiers in the world. Okay, we got another repeater here, so we can at least get some decent firepower going on. I think it's quite likely if I stick around here I'm going to die, so I am just going to charge through and hope that no one kills me. Which seems to have been surprisingly successful. Unfortunately, round the corner there are some other guys who are going to try and kill me. So I die, obviously. Apparently I can swim. I think it's the only time I ever did that in the entire game, and it was never really a mechanic, so I don't know if it's even possible to drown, because I don't know whether they would have programmed it in. Maybe it's just part of the engine and they just never really fixed it. Right, so that's one agent down. If we can head up there and grab his gun, we should be able to take out the other without too much difficulty. Yep, there we go. I don't know where the other one was. Oh, right behind us, in fact. Not anymore. The world's all gone all very, very dark all of a sudden. I don't know whether that's because I'm about to die or because there are agents in the vicinity. Either or. And here we find the mysterious futuristic camp of the opposition agents.
I know. We'll pull your switcheroo. I need you to reset the timeline.
Right, so this isn't too hard. We've just got to switch on all these laser beacon things. There's only 3 or 4 of them, I think. And we've got to be a bit careful along the way that we don't get killed by the agents. But obviously, they're relatively easy to take down now that we've weakened their shields and we've got some future weapons of our own. So here goes beacon number 3. There we go. So through come some of our Chronotech buddies, and we'll let them do the fighting. help him out a bit there. And it looks like we've beaten them.
Crew handle the details. They'll mop up any opposition agents still around and make sure the battle wraps up like it should. And that, my friend, means we are done. The Civil War...
No more Civil War for us, no more World War One for us, so let's see what remains. It is an entirely different historical period, and it's quite exciting.
Well done. The weapon has been retrieved and the cavalry arrived in time to save General Toombs. Our simulation models show a return to 99.993% normal within our standard deviation, despite the efforts of those opposition fellows. The Father of Time is still missing, but we have learned even more about his possible time-space location. More research needs to be done before we can make a move. Concentrate on our other outstanding matters. I will be in the research lab until you return.
So, we're heading off to Pompeii. I know you might not have been expecting that, but we are going far further back in history than we've gone so far, and it's not a place we'd expect to find modern guns. So, things are going to get interesting.
Summed it up. We'll drop in outside of the city, make our way in this gate. A lot of the weird time signatures are coming from around here, so we'll check that out first, unless another pass suggests itself. Now, her line about open engagement protocol means you shoot first, and you don't even bother asking any questions. This whole place is going to be under 1 million tons of rock and ash, so nobody's going to live anyway. Do whatever you need to do. Bring back this Cole fella.
No objections to that, so let's see what they've made of the Roman Empire.
My fellow time streamers.
This doesn't look like Pompeii. This looks like a cornfield.
We are at a crisis point. Both organizations are seeking Dr. Cole, with equal willingness to use violence. Mother's forces, including you, and our forces are marching headlong into a terrible confrontation at Pompeii. I have some advice for you. Stay out of harm's way and keep yourself safe. Mother's forces will not prevail in this fight. We are too well established. But I see a bright future for you with us. You've proven your worth, and we are always looking for talented agents. You see, we're the same. Chronotech, the opposition, it's the same organization. Only we're from the future. Mother has trouble accepting this, but it's true. We're playing for the same team. I tell you again, we will find Cole and eliminate anyone standing in our path. Keep yourself alive and we will find you later. But if you try to be Mother's hero, you will be struck down and buried under ash in the streets of Pompeii.
It's entirely likely that that will happen anyway.
Complete your journey, Morris. Good luck. And if you happen to find Dr. Cole first, you'd better pray he's come to his senses and is willing to make a change to history.
So, yeah, in what is not even the most stupid twist you're going to see in this episode, turns out the opposition are just future Chronotech, only they've decided to dress like Mysterio from the Spider-Man 2 game, and they have taken against me for reasons unknown when they could have just kidnapped me and recruited me into their own organization by going back to before I was kidnapped by Chronotech. Anyway, we're back in Pompeii, which looks mysteriously like a Civil War era forest that they've repurposed, and there's a surprising amount of fencing and public infrastructure for 79 AD or whenever this was. It's, the early Roman Empire is not a thing I know a huge amount about. My focus has always been much more on the late Roman Empire, but you see we've got these Rome Total War-like figures running along the path here, dressed in the same 3 outfits. They didn't put a huge amount of effort into this. There's a bunch of historical inaccuracies in the Roman period here, which I'll point out as we go along. For one thing, I know the Romans had cemeteries. I'm not sure they were this obviously sort of Christian. I don't know whether they had nice, neat rows of graves and headstones like that. I know they had memorials to the dead, because you find them to, like, people's dogs and stuff. But, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is modelled on the real Pompeii. I don't know. I've never been. But, that seems a bit improbable. So the walls here, this isn't a thing that Roman cities would have had in this period. Roman cities got walls in about the 3rd and 4th centuries. As the empire started to sort of fall apart, the economy wasn't going well, people decided to retreat to the cities because that's where jobs and security were. There were brigands roaming the countryside, there were, barbarians invading. It was not a safe place to be out in the country anymore. But at this period, they were under the Pax Romana, cities were sprawling, they had suburbs, they would have farms and people would go into trade. They didn't have big defensive walls like that. And there's some historians who attribute the fall of the Roman Empire to the presence of those walls, because it gave them a false sense of security and prevented them from re-establishing the economic prosperity that was needed in the early period of the empire. So basically, we are accompanying this guy as we shut down the opposition's terminals, which they are using to summon their forces into the city. It's basically an excuse to have several battles going on at once, we can cut through buildings like this, and we'll see some of the rather lovely attempts at Roman architecture they've come up with. These guys are quite easy to take out, and we get a plethora, to use a Roman-sounding word, of futuristic weapons here. We don't really fight with any of the Roman stuff, which is a bit of a shame. It would have been nice to get a gladius and start hacking apart the futuristic guys, but I know that would have been a little bit ahistorical and difficult. First terminal here, and we'll take that down, and it summons in some more of our timeline Chronotech guys. So if we pop over here, we can take out another bunch of the opposition guys. The super shotgun does very good work at close range, and down goes terminal number 2. At this stage, I'd like to point out that if I was doing a Roman-themed level where I wanted some kind of time pressure equivalent to the volcano, I wouldn't have done Pompeii, because you wouldn't have had many Roman soldiers here. You know, it wouldn't have been a particularly big battle. Whereas if you'd done something like the Fall of Rome in 410 to the Vandals, that would have been a more interesting period, because you would have had a credible third threat on the field. You would have had these Vandals riding around on horses, like the Civil War era cavalry, and they could have been a reasonable opposition to the Chronotech and opposition guys.
Careful, Morris. That's an automated turret.
Okay, so automated turret there. If we stand in front of it for too long, we will die, so we've got to instead head through the courtyard to the right. Roman soldiers we just saw in the cutscene there are quite well rendered. Their shields are roughly accurate. I don't think it's accurate they would have fought with spears. They would have probably had swords if they were actual soldiers, but I'm not kind of clear on whether they're proper soldiers or whether they're just kind of the town watch that have been summoned out of their barracks, at which point they may have fought with spears. But that's a bit unclear, and I don't really blame the game for it. But given that the Roman soldiers only appear in one mission, I think they can be sort of forgiven for a bit of inaccuracy. Find another terminal here, and we'll take that down. Anywho, with those guys taken out, we can head down here, duck out of the way of that turret to avoid being killed, and if we can head along here, wait for our health to grow back, we can go and C4 that obstacle. So as you can see, it's very accurate, and it does shoot it at a very rapid rate if we get in the way of it. So we head up here, and there we go. Now get out of the way of the C4 so you don't get blown up, and unfortunately we're going to have to take out these Roman soldiers who weren't really doing anything wrong, just very confusedly defending their hometown. Gradually pick off these opposition guys who are handily standing in this elevated area where I can see them, and as we move down the street, we'll have more of them to contend with. They haven't seemed to spot me at this stage, which means I can take them out nice and handily. Oh, getting a case of the rumbly screens to indicate that the volcano is going a bit mad. Don't worry, there's no actual time limit. You won't actually get blown up by the volcano, which kind of removes a bit of a credible threat from the level. If you'd had some kind of ticking timer, that would have made it, quite fun, put a bit of time pressure on it. But no, this is just another slog through the bad guys mission, which is made a bit quicker by the presence of the future weapons, admittedly, although it makes the enemies much tougher as well. So another portal goes down, and I think that's all the future guys cleared out for now. So as our Chronotech guys move in, we'll head around the side here. Got another barricade to clear. Seem to have found a different route here, which I wasn't expecting, but not about to complain. Let's head back here and take out another of their portals, and that'll reduce the amount of incoming fire in my direction. So if I cut around here as well, I'll head back and disable this one. Shotgun for you, shotgun for me. I'll shotgun you and fix history. Another one down. I might be about to die, but at least I'll have disabled that objective. If you listen to these guys milling about, they do actually try and speak Latin. It's really, really bad Latin. Got another portal down here, so I'll take that down. And a Roman guy has come up to try and interfere as well. He won't want to get involved. More opposition guys. Looks like one more down here. If I can take him out, then we can disable their portal. I am about to get shot in the face, which is less than ideal. But hopefully some Chronotech guys will come in and help me a bit. Yep. So they're filtering through that door and getting mown down very nicely. Right, so are we free to head back through? I think we are. Quickly reload the shotgun, and let's push on towards the amphitheatre. Right, so another bastion of opposition here. It looks like I might get mown down, which would be less than optimal at this stage in the mission, but might make it through. If I can hide behind here long enough to wait for my health to grow back and sneak over to this portal, let's disable that. Still a few guys left in the open, but our buddy should make quick work of them. I don't know how there's suddenly so many opposition operatives when previously they only appeared in 3s and 4s, and we were able to easily take them down. If they deployed these against me much earlier in the piece, they would have killed us easily. Anyway, let's C4 this perimeter and make our way inside the amphitheatre. Or I imagine we'll all have tea and biscuits and talk about this calmly.
Whoa. Hold on, Morris. Hold your fire. Look down there. That cannot be good. I bet they've located coal. I need you to activate the nearby generators. I'll reroute their power output into the teleport system.
Well, we'll do as the man says. First objective is this generator over here. It's guarded by a couple of opposition guys, but if we can get up onto this wooden scaffold, we can hopefully take them out without too much incident and activate that generator. So that's gone. Second one is up there on that level above the ground floor. If we can sneak through here, take out some of the opposition agents, and get inside. It's very, very dark in here, so it can be a little bit difficult to see what you're doing, but there's only a couple of guys to take out, so once they're gone, we can sneak upstairs. And on the upper level, we'll be able to head outside, hop across here, and generator 2. And now the third one requires us to get up to the upper level, and counterintuitively, you don't get up from this side. You have to go through this entrance and make it up to the upper level of the amphitheatre, and then make your way round. So instead, we'll head up these stairs, find some cover behind these pillars, try and keep back so they don't shoot us, and if I can make my way over here, we should get the third one done nice and quickly. Right, there we go.
Good deal. I stopped their data wipe before it got underway. And I was right. They've located Dr. Cole. What the...
Unfortunately, looks like we've got a bit of a mini-boss fight on our hands. These guys are coming in are the Heavies. They're obviously named as such because they're in heavier armor and they've got miniguns and they take an awful lot of damage to take down. So I'm just going to empty my clip on them and then retreat to a more safe position. Once you start taking them down, they tend to fall relatively quickly because just like the other guys, they've got only a limited amount of shield power before they become much more vulnerable. So, just going to quickly... Oop, you're not one of my friends, so make your way past you. Hide inside this little entrance where we got a bit of cover. So, as you'll see, the heavy guys have shoulder-mounted rocket launchers as well as their miniguns, and you kind of want to focus your fire on one of them at a time. So, as you'll see, as they come around this corner, we can start spraying them down. Their disadvantage is that they're very slow, so it becomes quite easy to just whittle them down over time, particularly from a distance. So that's a few of them down. One of them there who we're going to want to take out. And down he goes. We've also got to take out all the normal guys. The game doesn't tell you this, but like if there's any of those left alive, you won't be able to proceed with the level. So I'm just going to shoot them as I come across them as well. So they're all down.
With those generators you activated, I've routed our teleport destination through the opposition's own time stream. That'll give us a jump on them. Now let's get the hell out of here before another one of those guys shows up.
I concur. So through the portal, and let's see what awaits us next. Right, so unfortunately we're not done with Pompeii yet. We've got to fight our way through the opposition guys, including some heavies who are going to come and cause us difficulty. But as we can take down the normal guys, we should be able to concentrate our fire on them relatively easily. Got several buddies who are helping us out, so shouldn't be too much of a difficulty, including just bashing one of them in the face. That seems to be quite effective. I'm running out of shotgun ammo, which is a bit of a problem. If I can get some kind of other rifle, that will probably do the job, at least for now. So we'll head along here. You'd think there's going to be a whole load of more enemies that would show up, but there's actually relatively few at this stage. And instead, we'll see a figure over there who seems to be standing and painting. Who could that be?
We've come for you, Dr. Cole. We're in a crisis and we're on the clock. You need to what?
Please come with us. Isn't that the usual? It matters not. I will go peaceably. However, there is the matter of my painting. It demands conclusion.
Look, Doc, we don't have any time to waste.
Yes, I'm sure. Running around and around and around, and you have no idea.
I'm sorry, Dr. Cole, but what the hell are you talking?
And there. Okay. Artistic urges and all that, you know. But seeing you massive warriors in full battle gear does remind me...
Remind you of what?
I can't believe I haven't taken a moment to see the arena. You'll join me, won't you?
Son of a... This is not the way I...
Turns out the Cole is a bit of an eccentric and we're going to have to fight our way through the arena to some kind of final boss fight. Dexter's come along to help, so we'll hopefully have a little bit of extra firepower on our hands. So we'll do as the man says, and let's head over towards the arena. Turns out, though, it's unfortunately quite a long way there, and we're going to have to go on foot. Dexter gives us this fun microwave gun, which we can use to sort of melt enemies at close range, including the heavies, with relative ease. It's not brilliant at longer range, to be honest. You'll still want to keep some of your other more conventional rifles and so on, but it's a bit of fun for up close and personal use, like so. One bit of the game where they did not skimp was on the screaming sound effects, so we'll get to hear a lot of those soon as I melt people's brains. These walls provide reasonable cover, so we can mow down some of the opposition guys with relative ease at a distance. And now that they're gone, we can push on and see what lies ahead of us. Admittedly, the microwave gun does take a lot of the challenge out of the game, especially once you're not getting shot. Anyway, on to the next objective, and we'll see that we've got some more resistance to push through here. We've got to take out some of these Fallout-style terminals, which are curiously green and glowing and boxy for something from the future. But I suppose they want to demonstrate that it's sci-fi, so I guess that's understandable. So if I can climb up here, take out these enemy agents. Let's take out the first of the terminals. And managed to get killed, but we got the save point in before that happened, so we should be able to just respawn and have another go. Right, so I don't get swarmed from behind, I'm going to take out this terminal first this time. So even though I'm up close and personal with them, I have managed to get that taken out. So now I can move on and take out the third one, with hopefully some extra assistance from our side. So as this is going to get up close and personal, I'm going to go back over to the microwave gun, which hopefully should be able to sweep this area clean fairly easily. So yep, some good sound effects of screaming going on there. And the third terminal goes down. So we've cleared our way through this, and hopefully can now push our way onwards towards the city. One guy there, and I think there might be some heavies coming up, but we'll get the microwave gun out just in case. A helpful collapsed building there, breaches the walls, and lets us get into the city. But here come the heavies, so if I just concentrate fire on them for a minute, they don't seem to be shooting at me yet, which is slightly curious of them. Those shoulder rockets do sort of hurt, but like not as badly as some other shots we've taken in this game, so I'm just going to crouch for a second and keep firing on them. Down goes another one. Died there, so this time I'm going to take a little bit of cover so I can concentrate fire on them when they come around. So by aiming this down the sight, you can do a sort of charged shot. And if you run out of microwave ammo, emptying a clip of rifle ammo into them does the job just as well. Unfortunately, I'm now out of that, so I am going to have to rely on the microwave gun. Still, not too bad if we can just concentrate on them. And if we clamber over here, we find ourselves within the walls of the city, which is excellent. Unfortunately, I leap right into the path of some enemy agents who immediately shoot me dead. Right, so lots of shotgun ammo in hand. Hopefully all these heavy guys are down, so we can now push forward and make our way over the breach in the walls. I actually get hit by something there, although I'm not sure where it came from. Now, I know now that there are enemies on the other side of this broken building. So if I perch up here first and, yeah, shotgun them down, I can jump down without immediately getting shot and killed, which is very nice. Well, there's one left, but he hasn't noticed me, so I'm just going to deal with him. And there we go. I heard the noise of a heavy up there, so going to stand back here and fireball him from afar. Right, so with those guys down, we've got a bit more free space to maneuver. If I head over here, I want to see if I can pick up the guns from the... no, I can't pick up the guns from the heavy guys. That guy's down, so we now approach what looks like the arena. So there seems to be a sort of second layer of walls and a big ravine. This is not, I think, how the actual city of Pompeii works, and I think it's a bit of a weird excuse to have little set-piece moments like this. So I always thought that SPQR stood for Senatus Populasque Romanum, which, you know, it might well do, but in my view, it stands for Soldiers Pretty Quick Roasting. So yeah, they melt under the awesome power of my microwave. Sorry, Julius. Oh, no, we got more of them who are having a go. They seem to have actually, you know, constructed a decent, historically accurate battle line there. It's just that it doesn't really stand up to shotgun fire. So they all go down. Sorry, lads. And now we can head back into the city. Yeah, just going to get these civilians out of the way. I think they'd prefer this to being caught in a volcanic eruption. So as my friend takes out that door, we can push through to the outskirts of the arena. So, right, loads of Chronotech guys spawning. They're our friends. Unfortunately, lots of people who aren't our friends are here as well. So we'll let the Chronotech guys largely deal with the enemies, except I'm going to help out to take out some of the heavies. Our job is to break in past their barricade over here and fight our way into the arena. Now, it turns out the way to do this is not to fight them directly, although that can be quite fun, but to push through here, where we've got a bit of access to their perimeter. Don't have any grenades, which might be handy right now. Right, so Chronotech guys have come and helped us out. There's Dexter, and if we can take out this lad and manage to not die, but we know where we're going at least. Right, so first things first, I'm going to take out that guy who's up there sniping down at us, who seems curiously invincible to my weapons, plus this guy, and a few of the others coming over the barricades at us. Once they're down, we should be able to push through relatively easily. Right, we've got a heavy guy there, but while he's focusing on Dexter and co, I can just microwave him into the ground, and sweep a microwave beam over there to see if there's any opposition. Turns out there is, but not anything that we shouldn't be able to handle, particularly with our newfound ability to launch fireballs across the map. In this game, there always seem to be more enemies than you think there are going to be, which is, I suppose, a historical reality of war, but also quite annoying. Right, so get the C4 planted there, back the hell off, and kaboom, and we should be able to break our way in. I spent so long on that the first time I played this game because I just couldn't work it out. So we head down into this dark tunnel, which I guess, you know, it's understandable because they didn't have, you know, internal lighting at this stage of history, and nobody was really bothering to light candles when the volcano's going off. But yeah, we've got a kind of barricade set up around the statue here, which doesn't really make much sense as a structure you'd bother with. But our job, firstly, is to take out the turret that's mounted on top of it, but secondly is to deal with a large coterie of agents who are coming in to try and murder me. The microwave gun doing very good work laying waste to them. Got to make sure I let it recharge though before I try and take on the heavies. And managed to get my first death of that battle. Still, this is the final battle of the game, so we'll soon be over. Try and filter them through so you're only taking on a few at a time. That seems to be the best way to avoid death. Unfortunately, you really can't lay enough fire on them to do that, so that might not be a solution that works in the long term. Okay, so that didn't work, so instead, going to go in hard and fireball them first off, and keep doing that until we can thin their ranks out enough that I can start shotgunning them properly. Uh-oh. Managed to get caught in a corner by the heavies, which is basically a death sentence because their miniguns will just shred your health. So instead, this time I'm going to maybe hang back and try and hide behind my Chronotech guys a bit, because we've got some cover here we can use. So we've got the shoulder rockets from the heavies, which are able to hit us behind the cover, but we'll do what we can to try and survive until we can get at them. Taking out their little friends does reduce the volume of incoming fire, which is something. Turns out shooting them in the face at very short range is quite an effective way of taking out the heavies as well. They're very slow to turn as well, so you can sort of flank them like that. Right. So I hear the soaring of an enemy minigun, but it seems like that's the last guy, so with him down... Oh no, there's another one I can hear. We seem to be taking the momentum, which is nice. Particularly with my friends going taking out that bloke. So I think we're safe to try and climb the stairs now. If we can get to the top without opposition, we can C4 this turret. And going to take a quick leap down here and try and survive the fall damage. Now that the turret's out, we can go and secure Dr. Cole. I don't think there's any more combat to be done at this stage. So guns away, and let's go and see what our boss makes of all this.
Well, that was amazing! You've traveled quite a long ways, and quite a long time. I've been keeping an eye from afar. Agent Dexter!
Just your average snafu, Doctor. We're short on time, of course. I suggest we make an urgent exit.
Not even enough time for small talk? So be it, and let it be. I am ready, even perhaps willing.
Oh, you weird eccentric. Come on, get in the portal.
Done well. I'm honored to be your partner. Let's head out before we get buried in ash like the rest of these poor saps.
So, back to HQ, where we'll find out what's been going on.
Dr. Cole, it is so good to see you back. All of us at Chronotech were terribly worried. What would happen without you?
Oh, Mother, you have done just fine in my absence. I'm sorry for damning you with such faint praise. I should say you did wonderfully.
Thank you, Dr. Cole, but it is much better to have you back. We have much to discuss. I'm sure you'd fancy a moment to clean up and refresh. So may I meet you in your office in 1 hour?
Yes, that's splendid. We have much to discuss.
I will use the time to confer with our technicians and check the status of the time streams we've been monitoring. We're awaiting confirmation, but I think we've corrected all the problems. I will see you shortly.
Oh, so nice to be back. Home. Yet what a journey.
You saw some sights, did you?
Oh, 1,000 times, yes, and 1,000 times again. But all in the name of science, of course. I had to keep it to myself, but I was testing a hypothesis that could have changed everything. There was no reason to...
Dr. Cole, finally we meet. It is a pleasure and an honor. I've followed your work since I was a child, and this is one of the most fascinating moments of my life.
And perhaps I could say the same of you, but I apologize for my ignorance. May I ask who you are?
I am Dr. Victor Strinko. I am in charge of Chronotech, but from a few decades down the line.
So, meet the new boss? Is that why you're here?
I have a question for you, Dr. Cole. After your quest, your experiment, do you still believe we may not change the past, no matter what?
Well, my data show that changes do not have the immediate negative consequences we forecast.
But I still firmly believe that any change to history will result in possibly vast and resonating repercussions. It is in our best interest to protect history. Who am I, or anybody else, to play God? I'm all for helping those that suffer, but dark days teach valuable lessons. The events of the past define our present selves, and to meddle around is to court disaster.
Thank you, Doctor. I have my answer. And it breaks my heart to hear it. I have read all your works several times. You are a hero to millions, including me. And so it pains me greatly to do this.
Hey! What the fuck?
Easy, Agent Dexter. That will be the end to violence if I have my choice. And I have an explanation.
All right, I'll listen, but my question stands.
It is regrettably tragic, but necessary. The gentlemen we interfered with, the Welshes and the Petroviches, are the ancestors of some brilliant scientists. In their research, they discovered a way to code the viruses to seek out specific genetic codings. Specifically the DNA that we receive from our racial heritage. It was an effort to combat rare specific diseases, but their work fell victim to espionage. A member of a radical fringe group was a lab assistant, and sent copies of their research to a Middle East institute. There, less talented but more fanatic scientists worked for years, modifying the virus. The end result was a fatal pathogen that could be targeted to a specific race. A terrorist cell smuggled it into the United States, not too long after you were seized, Dexter, and released it with an airburst from a weather balloon over Washington, D.C. It probably would have killed only a few million if these less talented scientists had stabilized the virus. But they didn't, and their sloppy work rapidly mutated into a highly contagious bug that spread throughout the world. Over 99% of those with DNA sequences from European heritage died horribly. The plague brought a secondary wave of death. Rioting and wars as governments struggled to survive and economies collapsed. A year after the airburst, 8 out of 10 people in North America were dead. Almost 2 billion worldwide.
My family, kids, my wife. Even if I could get out of this damn time prison, there's nothing.
I am sorry, believe me. That's where we come in. Dr. Cole's rule about never changing history has remained intact. But we've decided to make one exception, to prevent this mass genocide. I am sorry that I could not get Dr. Cole to see our point of view.
So you come back and kill him. What a humanist.
Actually, this was our last resort. We've been leaving him clues, trying to move his research in the right direction. Finally, we forced a crisis of conscience, and he took his sudden excursion. We hoped he'd see the facts, but even direct evidence didn't shake his true belief. Eliminating him now will make our job that much easier.
You mean there's more?
Yes, Agent Dexter, there is. Although we expect more resistance from this chronotech and Mother, we will stop that virus before it starts.
So my family... So everyone is saved?
Not yet. But it's chronotech's, our chronotech's highest priority. And, Agents Dexter and Morris, we're always looking for new talent. Consider it.
So, what the hell do we do now, brother?
So, you may have noticed that that was a completely ridiculous ending that didn't make any sense and wasn't in any way trailed throughout the preceding gameplay. So, it turns out that the guys we rescued from history were the ancestors of scientists who came up with some research that let people discover how to isolate viruses that affected specific races. Some future terrorists in the early 2000s used it to wipe out all the white people in the world, which... I'm getting some interesting thoughts about this game's politics, and we are where we are. So now that was a bit of a sequel hook. Spoiler alert, there will be no sequel, and we are told that we have to join the Resistance or continue to serve Mother, and I presume that in the sequel the answer would have been join the Resistance. Now, I do find this a little bit strange as a story, and I think it tells the story of Darkest of Days more generally, which is that it was an ambitious game that just completely failed to live up to any of its ambition. They tried some really interesting things. I liked that they went back to periods of history that hadn't previously been explored. I liked that they had the US Civil War in there, because we don't get nearly enough games about that. I liked that they had the Eastern Front of World War One, and that was an interesting start. But I think what they could have done, and probably should have done, was followed through the consequences of those things. So they could have gone from the Eastern Front of World War One to the Russian Revolution, to Stalin's Russia, to the Holodomor, to the Khrushchev era, and through to Perestroika. You could have seen the events of the results of what you did in history affecting throughout time. Instead, we only get two sort of historical timelines, and then we get some gimmick levels, one set in a concentration camp and one set in Pompeii. So it just seems like a bit of a waste. And so if you're wondering what happened to 8 Monkey Labs, they never made any more games as far as I'm aware. What they did instead was they went off and created a thing called Marmoset Toolbag, which is a 3D rendering software, which is actually quite popular and quite well used, and people use it to make some really good animations and 3D models and so on. And that's really nice, but it does raise some questions about why this game looks so terrible. Terrible pop-in, really bad draw distance, terrible animations, the same 5 clones fighting every battle. It just doesn't live up to that kind of promise. And that was released in 2012. This game was released in 2009. So admittedly, they had 3 more years to perfect it. But I just think it was a shame that that's what it became. So Darkest of Days, I mean, can I recommend buying it? Not really. If you find it in a bargain bin for the Xbox 360 or something for 50p, it might be worth a look. But I wouldn't have said that most people would find that a useful exercise. What it is, however, is an example of the kind of game I like, even if it's not done very well, because it has ambition, it has ideas, and it tries to do something a little bit different to everything else that was on the market at the time. You can see the influences that were around in the late 2000s with Modern Warfare and that kind of first-person shooter cover-based thing with some sniper sections and some vehicle sections, and the airship bombardment section was quite a good idea, even if it was a bit janky. So there's good stuff there, but it just doesn't come off. So I'm really grateful if you stuck through all 5 episodes of Darkest of Days. I know it's been a bit of a slog at times. I think this game's more fun to watch than it is to play, however, so hopefully you've got you managed to get something out of that. Next week, Wednesdays will continue to be a series day, and I'm going to be starting to look at a GameCube game that I think was sort of criminally overlooked. It's Battalion Wars, which is a spin-off of the Advance Wars series. I think it was developed in Britain, and it is a combination of sort of third-person shooter and RTS, which, as you'll know, is a combination I really enjoy. So look out for that next Wednesday. It's a little bit different to this. It features guns, but that's about the only point of similarity. And we will be taking a look at that soon. So thanks very much for joining me. If you like this, consider subscribing so that I can keep this thing on the road and keep growing. And keep tuning in on Saturdays for Resident Evil 4 and on Sundays for our mini-series of Wario World that's going on at the moment, plus the occasional one-off that'll be coming down the pipeline. So thanks very much for watching. Thanks very much for listening. I've been Robin, and this has been Digital Wilds. Thanks very much. Goodbye.